Herod the Tetrarch heard reports about Jesus and remarked to his attendants that Jesus must be John the Baptist raised from the dead, which explains the miraculous powers at work in him. John had earlier reproved Herod for unlawfully taking his brother Philip's wife, Herodias, so Herod arrested and imprisoned him. Herod wanted to kill John, but was restrained by fear of the people who regarded John as a prophet. On his birthday, Herodias' daughter performed a dance that delighted Herod so much he vowed to grant her anything she asked. Prompted by her mother, she requested the head of John the Baptist on a platter. Though distressed, Herod ordered it done to honor his oath and guests. John was beheaded in prison, and his head was brought and given to the girl, who gave it to her mother. John's disciples then came, took his body, buried it, and informed Jesus of what occurred. When Jesus heard, he withdrew by boat to a solitary place. But the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. Upon landing, he saw a large crowd and had compassion on them, healing their sick. In the evening, the disciples urged him to send the crowd away to buy food, but Jesus told them to give the people something to eat. With only 5 loaves and 2 fish available, Jesus instructed the crowd to sit on the grass. He took the loaves and fish, gave thanks to God, broke them, gave them to the disciples, and the disciples distributed them to the people. About 5,000 men were fed, besides women and children, and 12 basketfuls of leftovers were gathered. Immediately afterward, Jesus insisted his disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him while he dismissed the crowd. After sending them off, he went up the mountain to pray alone. Later that night, the boat was far from land, buffeted by waves due to contrary wind. Jesus came toward them, walking on the sea. The disciples were terrified, thinking it a ghost, but Jesus reassured them, saying, "Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid." Peter replied, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." Peter walked on the water toward him, but when he saw the wind, he became afraid and began to sink. He cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" When Jesus and Peter climbed into the boat, the wind died down, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." After crossing over, they landed at Gennesaret. People there recognized Jesus, and news of his arrival spread throughout the surrounding region. Many brought all who were sick to him and begged to touch the edge of his cloak, and all who touched it were healed. Some Pharisees and teachers of the law came from Jerusalem to Jesus and asked why his disciples broke the tradition of the elders by not washing their hands before they eat. Jesus replied, asking why they break the command of God for the sake of their tradition. He pointed out that God commands to honor father and mother, yet they nullify this by saying gifts devoted to God excuse them from helping their parents. He called them hypocrites, quoting Isaiah that these people honor God with their lips, but their hearts are far from him, worshiping in vain and teaching human rules. Jesus then told the crowd that what goes into someone's mouth does not defile them, but what comes out of their mouth does, because it comes from the heart. The disciples noted that the Pharisees were offended. Jesus explained that every plant not planted by his Father will be uprooted, and that the Pharisees are blind guides. If the blind lead the blind, both will fall into a pit. Peter asked for an explanation, and Jesus said that food enters the stomach and leaves the body, but the words that come out reveal the heart. Evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, and slander come from within and defile a person. Eating with unwashed hands does not. Leaving that place, Jesus went to the region of Tyre and Sidon. A Canaanite woman came crying out for mercy, asking him to heal her demon-possessed daughter. Jesus did not answer at first, and the disciples urged him to send her away. He said he was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel. The woman knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." Jesus replied that it is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs. She answered, "Yes, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Jesus praised her great faith and granted her request, and her daughter was healed at that moment. Jesus then went along the Sea of Galilee, up on a mountainside, and large crowds came to him, bringing the lame, the blind, the crippled, the mute, and many others. He healed them all, and the people praised the God of Israel. After 3 days with the crowd, Jesus told his disciples he had compassion for them because they had nothing to eat. The disciples asked where they could get enough bread in such a remote place. Jesus asked how many loaves they had. They said 7 and a few small fish. He directed the crowd to sit, gave thanks, broke the bread, and gave it to the disciples to distribute, and likewise with the fish. All ate and were satisfied, and 7 basketfuls of leftovers were collected. The number of those who ate was 4,000 men, besides women and children. Afterward, Jesus dismissed the crowd, got into the boat, and went to the region of Magadan. Hello. In life, we often feel helpless. We face problems that seem unsolvable, and in moments of loneliness, we feel a deep hunger in our hearts. Jesus, the protagonist of today's stories, was a person who responded to these very human feelings of desperation and loneliness with profound power. Matthew chapters 14 and 15 contain accounts of Jesus' miraculous works. These stories are not just a list of amazing events. They clearly show us who Jesus is and how his power can reach every part of our lives. Today, we will explore 3 miracles to understand what kind of person Jesus is. The first story is the miracle of the feeding of the 5,000. Jesus had been teaching a large crowd of people, and by the time evening came, they were in a remote place with nothing to eat. The crowd was enormous, with over 5,000 men alone. The disciples offered a practical solution: send the people away so they can go to the villages and buy food for themselves. Their eyes only saw scarcity, and the most logical way to solve the problem was to disperse the crowd. But Jesus gave a completely different answer. You give them something to eat. All the disciples had were 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, the 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus took this small meal, which was hopelessly insufficient to feed 5,000 people, and gave thanks. Then a miracle happened. He shared the bread and fish with everyone until they were all full, and there were 12 baskets of leftovers. This wasn't just a miracle to solve hunger. It shows us that Jesus knows all of our shortcomings, and he can use our small offerings to create abundance beyond imagination. His authority transcends our logic and limitations. The second story is the miracle of walking on water. After feeding the 5,000, Jesus sent his disciples ahead in a boat and went up a mountain to pray alone. In the middle of the night, the disciples' boat was tossed by strong winds and waves. In this storm, a perfect metaphor for the storms of our lives, the disciples were terrified. At that moment, Jesus came to them, walking on the sea. But the disciples didn't recognize him. They thought he was a ghost and screamed in fear. When we are trapped by fear, we can fail to see hope, even when it is right in front of us. Peter, mustering up courage, cried out, "Lord, if it's you, tell me to come to you on the water." Jesus said, "Come." And Peter began to walk on the water. But when he saw the strong winds, he became afraid and started to sink. Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught Peter. "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" Jesus rebuked Peter's small faith, but he was also the one who reached out to him first as he was sinking. This miracle shows that Jesus is the one who commands the fear and storms of our lives. Even if we stumble, he will reach out and lift us up. The third story is the miracle of healing a Canaanite woman's daughter. After leaving the Jewish region and going into a Gentile area, a Canaanite woman came to Jesus, begging him to heal her daughter. At that time, Jews considered Gentiles unclean and would not associate with them. Jesus' initial response sounded as if he was acknowledging those social boundaries. He said, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." But the woman did not give up. She replied humbly, "Yes, it is, Lord, but even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Her answer was filled with an astonishing faith that transcended all boundaries. Jesus praised her faith, saying, "Woman, you have great faith. Your request is granted." And her daughter was healed instantly. This miracle shows that Jesus' authority was not limited to the Jewish people. It transcends all boundaries of race, ethnicity, and social prejudice. Anyone who comes to him with true faith can experience his power. The miracle of the 5,000 shows Jesus' power over our lack. The miracle of walking on water shows his power over our fears. And the story of the Canaanite woman shows us his character of breaking down our prejudices and boundaries. These are not just amazing events from the past. These stories are a message to us, revealing who Jesus is and how vast his power is. If there is an emptiness that cannot be filled in your life, a fear you cannot overcome, or a loneliness you feel in your relationships with others, Jesus is the one who offers an answer to all of it. He is still reaching out to our lives today,